I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get blindsided like this, but here I am, sitting in my own mind trying to piece together what the hell just happened. I married Emily about 5 years ago, and for the most part I thought we had a good thing going. She's beautiful, ambitious, and yeah, a little bitchy sometimes, like all women are, right? But that was what I loved about her. She didn't take crap from anyone, especially not from me. We had our disagreements, sure, but I thought we were solid. Until the last couple of months, things started feeling different. She'd come home late more often, excuse herself with some bullshit about work or meeting friends, which I didn't believe anymore. But I brushed it off, told myself I was paranoid, maybe insecure. I mean, women like Emily, they're clever. They hide things well, and I always thought I knew her too well to suspect anything serious. Then came the graduation ceremony, which was supposed to be a proud moment for us both. I was there with my family, snapping pictures, pretending to be the proud husband. Emily was all over the place, mingling with her friends and looking gorgeous, of course. She kept telling me she was busy with her dissertation advisor, Dr. Carter, planning some last-minute publication. I didn't think much of it at the time. She claimed they were discussing publication opportunities, and I trusted her. At least, I thought I did. After all, she's been working her ass off for her degree, and I figured she just needed to finalize some stuff with her advisor. But looking back now, I remember how her eyes lingered on Carter a little too long, how she seemed a bit tense and secretive when I asked her about it. Still, I didn't want to ruin my proud day with doubts. That night, after I'd celebrated and drank a little too much, I decided to check her phone. I figured, what's the worst that could happen? Maybe I'd find a reason not to trust her anymore. But I wasn't prepared for what I saw. There in her messages were texts from Carter, flirty, intimate, and way too personal for just a discussing publication scenario. She'd been texting him late at night, sharing inside jokes, calling him baby once or twice. The worst part, she told him she loved him, and the messages weren't just playful, they reeked of cheating. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut. My stomach turned, my hands trembled, and I couldn't breathe for a second. It was like all my worst fears had come true in that one instant. I spent that night staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. My mind was racing. How long has this been going on? How did I not see it? I kept thinking about all those times she dismissed my concerns, called me paranoid, told me I was overreacting. And yet here I was with proof that she'd been lying right to my face. I knew I had to confront her, but I wasn't sure how. I was furious, hurt, and completely betrayed. How could she do this? How could she cheat on me, especially with someone she claimed was just a mentor? I mean Carter. The guy's an arrogant, self-absorbed prick who thinks he's God's gift. And Emily, she's smarter than this. Or so I thought. Turns out she was good at hiding her lies. The next morning I knew I couldn't ignore it anymore. I had to face her, and I knew the truth would come out one way or another. The moment I woke up, I knew I couldn't pretend I hadn't seen what I saw. I sat there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like my mind was in a fog. But the image of her texts burned into my brain, impossible to ignore. I had to confront her. There was no way I could keep pretending everything was fine. That day, I waited until she was home and then called her into the living room. Her face immediately gave her away. She looked tense, defensive even before I said a word. I could see the flicker of guilt behind her eyes, but she tried to play it off as usual. "What's going on, Emily?" I asked, voice steady but cold. "I found your messages with Carter, the ones where you told him you loved him. Care to explain?" She scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Oh, come on, you're overreacting as usual. That's just some stupid joke. You don't know what you're talking about." I clenched my fists. "Really? You think I don't know what I saw? I saw your phone, Emily. I saw the messages. The ones where you said you loved him. How long has this been going on? Were you just fucking him during graduation?" Her face twisted into a sneer. "God, you're such a drama queen. It's none of your business. Carter's just helping me with my dissertation. That's it. You're paranoid and insecure, and I'm tired of your jealousy bullshit." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She was lying. She was justifying it like it was nothing. I felt a surge of rage. How could she dismiss it so easily? How could she call me insecure when she was out there, lying, cheating, fucking around behind my back? "Stop lying," I said through gritted teeth. "You're not fooling anyone. I saw the messages, Emily. The ones where you told him you loved him. How many times? How long have you been doing this?" She crossed her arms, rolling her eyes again. "Honestly, I don't owe you an explanation. You're just jealous because I'm smarter and more successful than you. Carter's just a mentor, and you're the jealous, insecure husband who can't handle that I don't need you to hold me back." That was the moment I saw her true colors. That was the moment I realized her bitchy, manipulative side. All those times she belittled me, undermined me, dismissed my feelings, they weren't just words. They were shields hiding her lies. I felt my stomach churn with anger and heartbreak. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her admit what she'd done. But I stayed quiet because I knew this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of something much worse. After she left the room to get a glass of water, I grabbed her phone knowing I shouldn't, but I couldn't help myself. I needed to see if there was more. And there was more than I bargained for. Texts, photos, even some explicit messages. She had fucked him, no doubt. I saw the pictures she had sent him, those little selfies she always teased me about, but now they just felt disgusting. I felt raw, like my insides had been ripped apart. I thought about all the times I took her for granted, how I never suspected her of this level of betrayal. I'd always been a good husband, supportive, patient, and she repaid me with lies, betrayal, and a world of bullshit. I knew I had to decide what I was going to do. But first I just sat there, staring at her screen, processing the reality that I'd been played. All the signs were there, but I'd ignored them, convinced she loved me. Now I was left with nothing but a bitter taste and the knowledge that my marriage, the woman I thought I knew, had been a lie. I didn't cry, at least not yet, but I sure as hell felt like crying inside. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I'd ever experienced. That night I didn't sleep. I couldn't. My mind kept replaying everything: her sneering face, the sympathy I once felt, the realization that I'd been a fool. I kept thinking about how Emily always prided herself on being smarter, more ambitious, more independent. But she was also a bitchy liar, manipulative and willing to cheat on me just to feel special or validated by Carter, that arrogant prick who probably thought he was doing her some favor. I felt sick knowing she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months. Was it just during graduation, or had this gone on long before? The thought made me furious. I decided I needed to call Carter. I had to hear it from him, or at least get some clarity. I wasn't about to let this go without some kind of confrontation, so I looked up his number, hesitating for a minute, then dialed. The phone rang a few times, then he picked up. His voice was smooth and condescending, like he knew he was a step ahead. "What do you want?" he asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. "Cut the bullshit, Carter," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know what you did with Emily. Don't deny it. I saw the messages. How long has this been going on?" There was a silence on the other end, then he finally chuckled. "Look, man, I don't know what your problem is. Emily's a smart woman. She's got her own ambitions. We're just working together, that's all. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." I clenched my fists. "Don't bullshit me. I saw the messages. You're both cheating and you think you're clever. Using my wife behind my back. You're disgusting." He scoffed. "Relax, dude. She's not the girl you think she is. She's smart. She knows what she wants. Maybe you're just insecure. Look, I don't have time for this drama. Tell her to stop being a little bitch and deal with her own mess." That was the moment I knew I couldn't trust him either. Carter had no remorse, no shame. Just that arrogance, like he believed he was untouchable. I felt my blood boiling. I was about to say more, but I hung up. I couldn't keep listening to his bullshit. All I knew was that I just confirmed what I already suspected. She cheated on me with her advisor during our celebration while I was there, proud and oblivious. I never wanted to be that guy who gets played like a fool, but here I was. It hit me like a punch in the gut, and I realized I was deep in it now. I had to think about what to do next. Do I confront her again? Do I leave? I felt betrayed, angry, humiliated, and more hurt than I'd ever been in my life. The worst part, I still loved her, or at least I thought I did, but love doesn't survive betrayal like this. It just doesn't. I was standing at a crossroads, and I knew my next move would determine everything. I couldn't go back to pretending everything was okay. I had to face it head on, no matter how much it hurt. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding, and the numbness from the night before was wearing off, replaced by this simmering rage and heartbreak. But I knew I couldn't keep dragging this out. I had to confront her again. I needed answers, and more importantly, I needed to know if this was just a fling or something deeper. I got up, took a deep breath, and called her into the living room again. She looked annoyed, like I was bothering her. That bitchy smirk was back on her face, like she thought she could just brush this all aside. She sauntered in, crossing her arms, eyeing me like I was some kind of nuisance. "So," I said, voice low and steady, "you lied to me. You told me you were just discussing publication stuff with Carter, but I found out the truth. You've been sleeping with him, haven't you?" She rolled her eyes, trying to dismiss me. "You're overreacting as usual. You don't know what you're talking about. I told you Carter's just my mentor. You're seeing things that aren't there. You're just insecure. Maybe you're the one who has the problem." I shook my head. "No, Emily, I saw your messages. The ones where you told him you loved him, the photos of you two together. You fucked him. During graduation, while I was with my family celebrating my achievement. How could you do this? How could you lie so easily?" Her face twisted into that bitchy sneer. "You're such a drama queen, it's none of your business. I don't owe you an explanation. You're just jealous because I'm better than you in every way." That was the last straw. I felt something inside me snap. How could she be so cold, so manipulative? I couldn't believe I married someone with such a bitchy, lying nature. I stepped closer, voice trembling but loud enough for her to hear. "You're a cheating slut. You used me, lied to my face, and then had the nerve to call me insecure. Well, guess what? I'm done. I'm done with your bullshit. I want you out of my house." She looked like I'd slapped her. Her eyes widened and her face flushed with anger. "You're being a psycho. You're overreacting. I don't need to explain myself to you." "Yeah, you do," I said, voice rising now. "And you're damn right I'm overreacting, because you're a liar, a cheat, and a manipulative bitch. I trusted you, Emily. I loved you, but you threw all that away for some arrogant prick who thinks he's smarter than everyone else. Well, I'm done being your fool. I want you gone." She stared at me, her lips trembling for a second, then she turned on her heel and stormed out of the room. I could hear her muttering under her breath about how I was crazy, jealous, and controlling. But I didn't care. I felt a strange mixture of relief and devastation. The truth was out now. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and I couldn't pretend everything was okay anymore. As she packed her bags that afternoon, I watched her, feeling a strange sense of emptiness. I kept thinking about all those moments I'd tried to give her everything, my support, my love, my future, and how she'd repaid me with lies and betrayal. I realized I'd wasted years on someone who never truly loved me, and that thought hurt more than anything. I knew I'd have to rebuild somehow. But right then, all I could do was sit there and stare at the empty space she'd left behind, wondering how I let it get this far. I spent the next few days in a haze, trying to process everything. It was like my mind was a battlefield, anger, sadness, betrayal, all fighting for control. I kept replaying her words, her sneers, the way she lied so effortlessly. The worst part was knowing she had been deceitful for months, maybe longer. I kept asking myself why. Why did she do it? Was I not enough? Did I fail somehow? Or was this just her nature, bitchy, manipulative, and always looking for something better? I hated that I even cared enough to ask those questions. It hurt too much to admit I was hurt, so I bottled it up, pretending I was okay when I was really falling apart inside. I knew I had to make a decision. I couldn't keep living in this limbo filled with resentment and regret. I decided to go see a lawyer, not because I wanted to drag her to court or anything drastic, but I needed to understand my rights. I needed to know what I was entitled to, my house, my savings, how to proceed with the divorce. I never imagined I'd be in this position, but here I was. The betrayal had shattered my trust, and I knew I wasn't going to fix this marriage anymore. Not after what she did. The lawyer was sympathetic but straightforward. She explained that since we weren't married long enough to have a formal prenuptial, everything was probably going to be divided equally. She told me to gather all the evidence I had, screenshots, messages, anything that proved infidelity or betrayal. She warned me that she might try to manipulate the situation, spin stories, or even lie to protect herself. I felt a strange sense of clarity hearing that. I wasn't crazy and I wasn't overreacting. She really had cheated on me. That afternoon, I went back home, and I decided to do something I'd never done before. I cleaned out her side of the closet, packed her stuff, and put it in boxes. I told myself I had to move on, even if it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. I looked around the house, remembering all the good times, the bad times, and the lies. I felt like I was losing everything I'd ever built with her, but I also realized I was finally free from her manipulative grip. I could breathe again, even if it hurt like hell. Towards the evening, I sat in the living room, staring at the empty space where she used to be. My mind kept drifting to the pain of betrayal, to the moment I found out the truth, and to how I'd have to rebuild my life from scratch. I told myself I wouldn't let her ruin me. I'd get through this somehow. But I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared. Scared of what the future held, scared that I'd never trust anyone again, and scared that I'd always carry the weight of her lies. That's when it hit me. No matter how much it hurt, I had to accept it. I'd been betrayed by someone I loved, and now I had to pick up the pieces and move forward. It was the hardest lesson I'd ever learned, but I knew it was necessary. In the weeks that followed, I threw myself into rebuilding what I could of my life. I cut all contact with Emily, no calls, no messages, nothing. I knew I couldn't let her manipulations or lies continue to control me. I focused on my work, spending more time with friends who knew what I was going through and offered genuine support. It was a slow process, but each day got a little easier to breathe, to stand on my own again. Every time I thought about what she did, I reminded myself that I deserved better, that I wasn't to blame for her choices. Getting the divorce was a relief, honestly. The legal process was messy and exhausting, but it was also a step toward closure. I made sure to collect all the evidence of her affair, screenshots, messages, her lying about Carter, so there would be no question about what really happened. I knew she'd try to spin it, try to paint herself as the victim, but I wasn't going to let her manipulate the truth anymore. I didn't want her to get away with what she did. I wanted to be free of her lies and betrayal. Over time, I realized I'd become stronger, more cautious. I learned to trust my instincts again, to listen to that tiny voice warning me when something was off. I also learned that sometimes love isn't enough. People can hide who they really are, even when they seem perfect on the surface. Emily was a perfect example of that. She was bitchy, manipulative, and willing to cheat just to feel validated. But I wasn't going to be her victim anymore. Looking back, I see this as a painful but necessary lesson. Betrayal cuts deep, and sometimes it feels impossible to recover. But I did. I came out of it more aware, more resilient. I regret the pain, sure, but I also don't regret learning the truth. Because now I know what I deserve, someone honest, respectful, and loyal. I won't settle for anything less. Most of all, I've learned that the only person who can truly protect your heart is yourself. Trust is fragile, and once broken, it's hard to mend. But if you're patient and strong enough, you can rebuild your life, better, wiser, and more prepared for whatever comes next. That's what I hold on to now. The pain will fade, the scars will stay, but I'll keep moving forward, knowing I'm finally free from her lies.